of all ages are hurt and broken, okay? And in fact, 85% of people come from a dysfunctional or broken family in one way, shape, or form. I know this. I've known it firsthand, and I've also known it as a mentor. I'm traveling all over the state of Arizona. I'm helping people from 16 years old to 80 years old. And you would be surprised when you sit down one-on-one with somebody and you're there with the intent to help them, what story and what baggage people are actually carrying. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of things that we create in our own minds that stand in our own way from progressing or accomplishing those goals and those dreams. It's all relative, okay? The 85% of dysfunction in families, that is a relative statement, okay? 2 examples. You could take somebody that comes from a broken home, meaning mom and dad got divorced. Okay, that's considered dysfunctional. That's considered a broken home, okay? On the same side, you could have somebody who I have known that their mom committed murder, killed the father, went downstairs and killed the grandmother, and then drove to the police station and turned herself in. Comes to find out that the father actually lived, permanently disabled forever. But these are some scenarios. A divorce for somebody that, mom went out and committed murder. These are 2 separate scenarios, but you'd be surprised on how each person handles that sort of situation. Divorce can impact somebody completely different than somebody else that's going through a divorce. And with the other situation where there's some extreme violence, 2 different people, same scenario, they could completely handle it completely differently, okay? I've been mentoring people for a very long time, and it's not just about the money aspect, and it's not just about the real estate aspect. I focus on those because it tends to be a very quantifiable goal for people to reach and accomplish, and then in turn, it builds confidence within somebody. When they make a budget, they strip down some of the unnecessary expenses, and then they create a slush fund or they create a savings account to go buy a property. All of these steps are necessary. I talk about it as just simply tools. But the life aspect for me is what it's all about. It doesn't matter how much money you have if you're empty morally, ethically, and you're not able to get plugged in a community and have an impact. Same thing with the real estate. You could have 100 homes, but if you're not plugged in and making an impact, then none of those homes mean a damn thing. Okay, this is what it's about. There are things in our life called trauma and events that led up to that trauma. There are two things. Things that you could control, things inside your control. These are the addiction type of scenarios. And then there are events in life that you couldn't control. 2 separate things, okay? And the things that you couldn't control is what leaves people the most broken, destitute, and mentally unstable individuals. I'll repeat that again. 2 situations. Situations where you could control it, or situations where you couldn't control it. And the people that are hurting the most are dealing with situations that they couldn't control at all. It wasn't their fault at all. And I'm talking about childhood. I'm talking about military situations. I'm talking about spousal abuse. These are all things that I mentor people on, and I'm quickly identifying the things that you could control were easier to overcome than they were of the things that you couldn't control. There are things in our life that happened to us that was not in our control. Spouse got hit by a drunk driver, car accidents, diseases, child issues, sexual molestation. These are the things that you couldn't control. Yet some of these adults go through life and carry these events forever. Military members, PTSD, combat. I was mentoring another vet. His patrol leader took a bullet in the face. That was an event that he could not control. And now years later, he's still struggling, still still dealing with the hurt of that. That's my point, is that the things that we can't control, we hang on to forever. The things that we can control or could control, they don't affect us like the issues where we couldn't control them. And this brings up another point of addiction, okay? The things you couldn't control, the things that were not your fault, led to mental states of PTSD, alcoholism, substance abuse, you name it. There are many ways that people deal with trauma, okay? But the point of this is that the ones or the people that have had events in their life that they couldn't control, whether it was as a child or whether it was in combat or whether it was a disease, these things are the toughest for people to overcome. And yet it was not your fault. You had no way of affecting any of the outcome. And yet you carry such a burden. Let me tell you something. I have an hourglass as the logo for Real Life School. And once the hourglass runs out, aka your life, you don't get a chance to flip it upside down. So this video is strictly a way of saying, hey, the things that you couldn't affect, things that were outside your control, whether it's childhood, whether it's military, whether it's a parent with a very unique or rambunctious child. I was one of them. Sometimes you just have to remove yourself from the scenario as a parent. As a military member, losing loved ones, if it wasn't in your control, you got to drop it. It'll chew you up for the rest of your life. And for those that were molested as kids, once again, couldn't control it. What kid knows better? That is the reason behind Real Life School, is that we learn by example. Okay. Some of the people that I'm mentoring right now are struggling from things that have happened 40, 50 years ago. They're still not able to conquer it just yet. And that's why I'm here. Sometimes you need to hear the same message from somebody else. Hurt people understand other hurt people. I have my history, I have my background, but I'm able to help you guys. I understand what it's like to have these events, whether you could control them or not control them. I have worn many t-shirts, and I understand what it's like to go through this thing by yourself. So let me tell you, the addiction, the substance abuse, the prescription drugs, the alcohol, the sex, all of that stuff, you think puts a Band-Aid on it. And all it does is make the issue worse. You'll feel regret by becoming addicted to something else instead of dealing with it with a friend or a battle buddy or a mentor or somebody that is close to you. Sometimes you can't take these topics, this hurt, this baggage, and just go talk to anybody. Some of these people that have not had sort of these, life-changing events would not even be able to relate in one way, shape, or form. And that's why you, who has been broken, had trauma, carries this hurt, you keep it down inside and you never actually get over it. You just put these Band-Aids on it like addictions. And I'm telling you, it's time, hourglass time, to let it go. Like I said, two things could have happened to you, things that you could have controlled and things that you couldn't have controlled. People that I mentor the most are dealing with events that they had no control over. And let me tell you something, word of advice. If you're dealing with this sort of scenario, it's not your fault. That is something that you have to keep telling yourself. When it happened as a child, or it happened in combat, or it happened on the street, or it happened internal to the family and you lost a loved one, if it was outside your control, then that's just simply the answer. We don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you this, carrying the baggage and the hurt your entire life, sometimes with some of these people for 40, 50, 60 years and never letting it go, that sort of hurt weighs down on your character. And I'm asking you, ask yourself, was it something I could control? If the blatant answer is no, then let it go. There's not a point to carrying that weight with you for the rest of your life. It just simply isn't worth it. So if you know somebody that's struggling with addiction or struggling with childhood trauma, or vets and military members struggling with loss of life or casualties, I've experienced them all. So I think it's time for you guys to put me in touch with them and let me help them one-on-one. We're not supposed to do this by ourselves. And like I said, the time and the hourglass continues to tick, and you do not get to put it back over or flip it back over when the time runs out. So I hope that you find this video helpful. Push it to somebody that needs it.